Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
I didn't think this is how you would meet, but this is still a wonderful way to meet.
Very nice to meet you. It was beautiful to see your family and your operation and just your life on film. It was really nice to see you.
Yeah, I couldn't say much better, actually. Thank you.
Tu lui dis qu'il est trop sympathique parce qu'il ressemble au héros de Steinbeck.
Oh yeah. So my mom told me that she just you look like to her like one of the hero of Steinbeck, you know, the writer. So
Oh, the rings around. I'm one of the Joes. Thank you.
C'est pour ça que vous m'êtes aussi familier.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We feel the same about you. Our lives were so similar. They're different, but so similar. It was so interesting to see someone's life unfold over time. I'm not used to being in film.
Et nous, on a beaucoup appris sur un sujet sur lequel on ne connaissait rien du tout. Hein. Ça, nous, on sait faire que du vin. D'ailleurs, Aurélien, il faut que tu ouvres parce que depuis tout à l'heure, il touche un bouchon.
My friends that watched the film with me, they were amazed because they didn't understand the complexities of winemaking and the struggle and the stress and the harmony that goes in with it, because they only understand cannabis farming, and it was such an education for them to see the details that you don't normally see unless you're involved in that industry. So it was just so intimate.
Et puis nous, en regardant le film, on s'est aperçu qu'on dégageait beaucoup de stress et que ça se voyait vraiment.
No matter what you do, if you're farming, you stress.
When I showed you guys the finished film, when each of your families watched it, you both had similar responses. You both said, wow, like, you know, like one family is so American and the other family is so French, and you noted things about how your national identities drove your stories. And I was curious to hear you guys talk to each other about the idea of, in the film, how Frenchness came across and how Americanness came across.
Ben oui, mais c'est ce que j'ai dit un petit peu au début, c'est que quand on a vu le film, oui, on s'est trouvé très différents, parce que nous, on soulève pas des poids toute la journée, il y a un côté pirate, il y a un côté, oui, puis ce côté de jeune de ce pays, cet enthousiasme, cette vitalité en fait, les repas aussi, hein, voilà, les repas, c'est quand même la façon de prendre les repas, c'est très différent. Et puis en fait, ça c'est la première, on a dit oui, ils ressemblent vraiment à des Américains et on est très différents. Et au cours du film, tout ça, c'est superficiel en fait. Et donc tout ça s'est effacé. Et pour que, oui, ce que j'ai dit au tout début, il nous était complètement familier et j'ai mis du temps. Hein. D'abord parce qu'on fait un métier de paysan et que obligatoirement on peut être de n'importe où de la terre, on se retrouve là. Et puis il y avait que j'ai mis un petit moment à connecter en me disant pourquoi il m'est autant familier. Et c'est à cause de Steinbeck. Voilà, je connais trop bien. En fin de compte, on porte en nous aussi cette culture américaine par Steinbeck. Et puis finalement, les problèmes de paysans, ils sont tous les mêmes, puisque la première chose qu'on a dit quand on s'est vu, c'était la météo.
That's funny. It's so true. We noticed that it was in the details of all the little things you did, just like with the food, the way the family spent time together. When you went and got bread on a bicycle, Americans get cases of bread in trucks, and then they hoard them in their closets. And it was an appreciation for these things that you've had time to learn that. And I think that as a country, we're still young. And I don't think that we necessarily are developed in certain ways about appreciation of small details. We're more of a big picture. And it was refreshing because it lets you see the beauty in that intimacy. It was just so different for us.
Oui, mais leur force aussi, c'est d'être jeune et cette vitalité. Et puis aussi, dans les grandes différences, c'est l'histoire qu'on porte nous. Hein. Et puis, je pense qu'en plus, dans la famille, ben, c'est important. Et ben, c'est entre ces deux nations. Hein. Nous, on est plus vieux, donc on porte tout ça. Ouais.
You could see the through the ages by having the son, the mom, and the grandparents all connected in the operation. There was this continuity, and it was beautiful because that's what we strive for. But our world is newer in what we do, and so it was beautiful to see because it lets you know that it's possible to have that existence. So it was inspiring to see a family move, and it's a burden. There's a responsibility, but that is what drives the quality, the weight.
I have a question for Aurélien and for Kona. And Aurélien, if you prefer to answer in French, that's fine. Whatever is easier for you. I know your English is great. But we filmed both your families at moments of real transitions. For you guys in France, it was you coming home after living abroad for many years. And Kona, for you in California, it was coming up in an industry at a moment of real change and uncertainty. And I'm wondering, now this is more than 3 years after we started filming, where you guys are in the process, how those transitions are panning out, and how you see the future.
Oh, first.
I think we're still transitioning. It never really ends. And we've just been in this constant state of evolution since my whole life in this industry, and it still hasn't really come to a point of stability.
It's just moving around. I mean, first I needed to find my place on a family, on the domain, etc., etc. Now it got kind of find a place inside, but now it's just smoothing the corner, and makes the life easier, etc., etc. But it's not like as hard. It's more about details than anything.
The same.
Rebecca, I'm thinking of the question that an audience member would ask if they were seeing you in another envisioned world, if they were seeing you live after a film screening, and what would be the burning question. And I think one of them would be, for each of you, what was it like to first meet Rebecca and to consider the idea of participating in the film? And what led you to make the decision and the leap of faith to participate when there was so much unknown, not just about the process of being in the film, but unknown about what would unfold in your businesses and on your land over the course of the project?
That's a good question. At first, it wasn't about me being in the film. It was really, I was more of a liaison to help Rebecca find people for her project. And I had done that previously for a number of people in terms of connections. And so I think I have a pretty good feel for people. And when we sat down up in my upstairs lounge at the shop and we talked for a while, I got a really good feel from her as just a good individual, where her direction wasn't exploitative. It was really to showcase the beauty of the craft in two different types of craft. And so I felt really good introducing her to people. And I knew that I like I said, I had a good feel for her as what her intent was. And then lo and behold, I end up becoming part of the film. And so I already had a good feel for it. And what I hoped was that we would be able to show my region and the people of the region as legitimate farmers, the same as any legitimate farmer. And that was what I had hoped would happen. And I knew that from being around her, that her direction wasn't to paint a negative picture for excitement. She wanted to show these details that are overlooked. And so I had real confidence, and that's really what let me be so open about the film, was that I knew that if I just gave her the material she needed, then she would be able to shape the story in the direction that would paint it best. And I couldn't be any happier.
Je crois que c'est toi qui m'avais téléphoné. C'est ça, hein? Voilà. Et j'étais dans la voiture quand tu m'as appelé et ça m'a juste amusée. Ça m'a amusée puisque l'Ardèche, on représente toujours les Ardéchois comme des hippies qui fument de l'herbe. Donc ça m'a amusée, mais voilà, j'ai trouvé ça rigolo. Et puis voilà, et puis après, Rebecca est venue à la maison. Puis entre-temps, je me suis dit, oh, ça pourrait être très joli parce qu'on laisserait une trace à nos petits, arrière-petits-enfants. Parce que moi, j'aimerais avoir plus d'images de mon arrière-grand-père, etc. Comment ça se passait à Libyan il y a 50, 60, 100 ans. Et voilà. Après, j'étais un peu angoissée parce qu'il fallait que toute la famille participe. Et ça pour le coup, c'était pas gagné. Et Rebecca, même si on ne parle pas la même langue, elle a fait tout basculer, tout le monde de son côté. Donc ça, voilà. Et ça s'est super bien passé.
Well, I'll tell you guys from my perspective a little about what it was to meet you both and the idea for the film. But originally, I just had a loose idea that it would be fun and funny to compare weed and wine. And I think I thought about comparing weed and wine connoisseurs, and I made a bunch of phone calls and decided I wanted to take a trip to Humboldt first because it had this mythological status. It just felt like such a magical place, and I was so excited to go. And not many people were open about talking about the history of Humboldt in the illicit market and what that was like, because almost all the growers there had themselves been growing on the illicit market for many years. But everyone said, you need to talk to Kev Jodrey. Everyone I talked to kept pointing to him. And I said, okay. So I was in Eureka. I drove down to Southern Humboldt. And as soon as I met Kev, I just thought, I just liked him so much. Kev, you're such a warm and likable human, and you're dynamic and funny. And I thought, oh, there's something here, but I didn't know what it was. And so we came back and we started filming. We filmed all these other things that didn't actually make the film. And it wasn't until that second trip that I met Kona. And Kona, I guess this is just my own bias, but I didn't imagine, Kev, you'd be like such a family guy. And that like, I don't know, you guys were so close. And it just wasn't like, I hadn't anticipated that. And that Kona, you share Kev's, like, you're dynamic like he is, and you're introspective and you're philosophical, but with such a different temperament. I just thought like your relationship was so interesting. And then there was this challenge of finding a family in France who, first of all, was not deterred by the comparison to cannabis. And second of all, was as philosophical and dynamic and introspective as you guys are. And then when I found Hélene and Aurélien, it was like, it just felt like magic. It just felt like this gift had landed in my lap, that I found these two families who were so open and wonderful and fun. And it was just, as a filmmaker, but just as a person, that I got to spend so much time with your families. It just felt like this wonderful gift. And I'm so grateful that you guys both said yes and opened your hearts over these years that we filmed.
C'est elle le cadeau.
You're the gift, Rebecca.
Eric's the gift.
Well, Eric, that's a great transition. Eric, we're gonna invite the rest of the crew to come on and talk a little bit about the making of the film.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hey.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
This
So
is funny.
exciting. Oh my gosh.
Filmmaking is, I know all of you guys, and I've worked closely with all of you guys, but you all have not met each other because you've worked at the film on different stages. So it's so exciting to see you all come together on this. Hello, screen. Yeah. So we should start by going around. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves, talk about the role you played in the film, and we'll take the conversation from there.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Alyssa Namias. I have the honor of being called executive producer on this film. And really, I just have been Rebecca's, I think, comrade for the past almost year or so in finishing the film and getting to know all of this, you know, Kev and Hélene and your families on screen and through Rebecca's storytelling. And I've also been supporting the project in terms of financing and distribution strategy and all of that fun stuff with Rebecca and Caitlin. And I'm a director and a producer of documentaries myself for the past almost 20 years. I live in Los Angeles, and I love this project. I just think it's such a beautiful film, and it couldn't be coming at a more perfect time, even if it is a difficult time. So thanks to all of you for the beautiful work you did to make it.
So I'm Max Avery Lichtenstein. I am the composer on the film, and which is always an interesting job because I kind of come in at the last moment and then get to know everybody through the film itself, which is always an interesting process. This film in particular was a great pleasure for me. I've worked with Rebecca numerous times, but I think this is the most sort of heartfelt project that we've done, which is really a nice opportunity as a creative person to work on something that's so meaningful. And obviously it was a pleasure to meet all the families through the film, and the beautiful photography and the great editing. So it all just, for me, worked out really, really nicely. I'm really proud of the score. I hope you all like it.
You did a great job.
Yeah.
Well, Max, I'll ask you a follow-up question right
Sure.
now, as long as we're on you. But so Max has done the score for every feature-length documentary I have ever made, all 4 of them. And every film is very different and has its own textures and tones, but there is something that also sounds just like essentially very Max-like, where it starts to feel real when your music comes in. Can you talk a little bit about what the process was like of figuring out the different sounds that each family and each region would have?
Well, I think one of the things that we first talked about when we first got together and I saw the rough cut with you and Nathaniel was the challenge of this film being that it's essentially 2 different stories in 2 different locations, obviously with a common theme, but we wanted to make sure that the audience would know, you know, where we were at any given time. So one of the first conversations we had was to try to identify a different palette for France versus California. And then also to have some subtle decisions about instrumentation for each character. So for example, like with Kona, I decided to use a little bit more of electric guitar. He's really the only one that gets electric guitar in the score. And with Aurélien, I did more synth, sort of electronic sounds, a little modern kind of stuff. And then also for Kev, I focused on the guitar strongly, and for Ellen, strings. So all of this used throughout, but trying to guide the audience along a little bit with the palette, and hopefully it helped. And then we just went through back and forth of trying to figure out how each thing was working in terms of also hitting the emotional needs of each scene. So that was generally the process, and we did a lot of back and forth.
Fascinating.
Eric, everyone knows you. You're a brilliant cinematographer, director of photography.
He's here.
Producer. Yeah, it's a happy reunion. Eric, you made it.
Yes. It's so lovely to see everyone. Hi.
Hello.
California. Bonjour la France.
C'est pour toi, Eric.
J'espère que tu vas bien installé avec votre vin.
Voilà, c'est pour toi.
Oui, oui.
It's slightly too early for us to drink, but not really.
Afternoon. Yes, I was the cinematographer on the film, and Rebecca was so kind as to give me a producer credit as well for the collaboration we worked on. You know, I just feel like seeing all of you is like seeing family again. And so many moments out there are moments that I remember and take with me and hold with me. And I have the most infinite fodder for cocktail party chatter. Like, oh yeah, well, you know, I shot this movie in the Redwoods, and oh, actually also in the south of France. No big deal. And just all of the wonderful moments of intimacy we shared. I'm working on a project right now in the hospital in Brooklyn, and I'm like putting on all this crazy gear every day and trying to like be intimate with people. And you know, we can't touch each other, and their lives are very stressful. And this project is just like the intimacy just flowed out of all four of you and your whole families, and that makes, I think, all of our jobs really easy. So I think back on this, and I'm just very thankful for all the willingness you had to like reveal your true selves and just bring that out, because it gave us infinite options. It meant that even when I messed up a take, it's okay because they're gonna be amazing again, just like 5 minutes later. So yeah, I don't know, this is great. I'm so happy.
On s'est étonnés nous-mêmes.
They were surprised themselves to be very patient with Eric. It's
Oui.
Eric's
Et c'est votre esprit que j'apporte avec moi.
Nathaniel, will you introduce yourself and
Sure. Yeah. So I had the wonderful opportunity to be the editor and a co-producer on this film. And the very strange, surreal opportunity I'm having right now to see people who I've never met, but who I feel I know so well, because for a little over a year, every day, all day, I was staring at your faces and trying to carve out the ups and the downs and trying to identify what are the most beautiful moments, what are the most magical moments, what are the most meaningful moments, and then figuring out how do we connect and build into those moments throughout, and how can we maintain kind of truthfulness to what Rebecca and Eric and Lauriane experienced while they were with you. Yeah, it was just such a pleasure and a privilege to work on this project. It's one that I, even though I wasn't there with you, I feel like I am with you. So thanks to Rebecca for that.
And I also just want to say that I think it's hard for people who aren't documentary filmmakers themselves always to understand what a documentary editor does, because it's not like a narrative editor where you're following a script or whatever. But Nathaniel is, we shot, maybe almost 200 hours of footage, and there are infinite different stories that we could have told even just with the things that we shot. And Nathaniel has to sort through all of this and figure out how it connects, how to honor the truth of your stories, but how to make it a meaningful narrative that condenses into 90 minutes. And it is very hard work. And there should just be a special word for what a documentary editor is. It should be, I don't know, it should, but you are a creator, you are a storyteller in the same way that Eric is a partner for capturing the stories as they unfold. Documentary editors are really incredible people who deserve so many accolades.
Well, that's very kind. I have to say, there are so many moments that work in the edit and that work well in the film because of the way Eric filmed it. And not just because it's pretty, because it's beautiful from start to finish, but I think that knowing and having intuition to say, I think something's going to happen and I'm going to keep rolling, and I'm going to transition from, Dad's hand back over to Aurélien on the tractor, or just having that instinct to make a scene while you're out in the field is not easy. It's really difficult as a cinematographer. And so I just feel like the edit owes so much to what was captured in the field. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. So that's the best thing I can hear.
I'm also very grateful for the occasional "don't use that take" at the end of a shot. So.
Yeah. And Caitlin, our consulting producer, who was actually on from almost the very beginning of the film, who worked really closely with me to help figure out what these ideas were and how they came together, and how to get foundation support for the work we were doing. Caitlin, will you talk a little bit about your background in film and why this project was a good fit for you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so my background is mostly in distribution, and most of my career has been spent helping get documentary films out into the world. But Rebecca and I had collaborated a few times before on past films, and I remember actually, Rebecca, the day that I first sat down to work on like the first grant application that we wrote together for this project, and you had met Kev, and I remember Rebecca on the phone was describing you to me, Kev, and a trip she had recently taken to Humboldt, and I think you were preparing, Rebecca, for your first trip, like scouting trip to France, and you had not yet met Hélène and her family, but you were talking about the kind of story that you might want to tell. And I remember you saying, you know, we had to write this grant, you know, before anything had been, maybe a little bit had been shot in Humboldt, but like nothing really there wasn't much footage, you know, and you were like envisioning this like French, you know, female winemaker that neither one of us knew whether, you know, that person existed. And so I wrote the initial grant. It was complete make-believe. It was, you know, based in truth and like rooted in what we thought you might find. But then, so we wrote that first grant and we submitted it. And then you took your trip like very soon after, I think, and it came together and you met Hélène, and then we regrouped, and it was almost as though you had like dreamed Hélène up. Like our grant application was like eerily sort of, the vision that you had was sort of eerily similar to the reality that you found in the broad strokes, you know, obviously not in the details, but just kind of seeing that initial vision of comparing and contrasting these two landscapes and these two families, and then seeing like the reality of it sort of flourish over time. Like from my perspective, because I dipped in every few months, I would just see this like evolution of the vision to the reality. And then of course, like it's real life, so you don't really know what's going to happen and what the challenges will be and what the emotional touch points will be. And so it was just such a privilege to kind of be able to work alongside you, Rebecca, and then to see your story, Kevin, Hélène, and Nocona and Aurélien, like to see your stories unfold over time in this way that I think charted the arc that we imagined might take place. And when you write that first grant, you're sort of forcing a narrative flow that you hope real life will deliver you, but you never know if it will. And you take a big risk in imagining that there will be tension and there will be conflict and there will be struggle, and there will also be moments of intimacy and beauty and revelation. And you guys really delivered, all of you. So it was just a lovely experience to witness that over the few years that it evolved.
And Lauriane, our executive producer, who was also one of the first team members involved in the film, who is from Dijon, France, from Burgundy, from the heart of wine country, and has made a number of wine films. Will you talk about how you came on board and originally, and our research, how you guided where the story went, and how we connected with winemakers to find Hélène and Aurélien?
Yes. So I remember the first email I read from Rebecca, and I thought, oh wow, wine and wheat, yeah, that's a great combination. So yeah, it could work. But for a French person, I think it's it's really bold, you know, to imagine this comparison. I would really never have thought about it. And when Rebecca and we talked, of course, a lot with Rebecca, and she explained it to me, I felt it was so obvious. And so the thing that started for us was the quest of finding the perfect contributors for this amazing project. And so we had the very hard task of touring the French wine regions, searching for amazing people. So we made a bunch of phone calls and to try to narrow down a few interesting candidates. And after that, yes, we fell in love with the Thibon, and the rest is in the film.
Yeah. Well, this was our, we took this road trip around France, meeting with winemakers, and I kept pinching myself, being like, this is my job. I get to hang out with Lauriane. I get to be in these incredible places. I get to meet these dynamic, passionate, wonderful people. I get to drink really good wine, and in California, smoke really good weed. And it was just, I don't know, it was unreal. It did feel dreamlike at times. And then this film came out of it. Yeah, I don't know. What an incredible thing. Hélene, Aurélien, Kona, Kev, do you guys have any questions for the crew? Anything you wanted to throw at us about how this all came together?
You know, I wanted to say thank you. Oh, go please, Hélene.
Non, moi j'en ai une. Quand est-ce que le film il sort en France?
That is a great question, and one I don't have an answer for right now. But for anyone watching this recording, there will be more information on our website, but there are so many unknowns in this pandemic time about how distribution is going to work. So we'll keep you posted on that. But you can go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, and we'll keep you posted that way.
Yeah. No, I didn't have any questions. More so, I just wanted to say thank you. It was years of filming, and just hundreds of hours of footage that was shot. And when I got to see the story that unfolded, it was pieces that I don't even see of myself. And so it was just so intimate and revealing. People that knew me my whole, like 30-year friends, they watched it and they were like, wow, there's pieces in here that I don't pick up. And so it was just such an intimate portrait, and it was so tenderly carried. Thank you. Because it could be much different. It could be very different. And it was not. And so it's a real privilege and an honor to be part of this, and to stand alongside Hélene and her family, because we looked up to them in their craft and their intimacy with their family, and we got to be part of that picture. So it was a real honor, and I just want to say thank to all of you for taking the time and the effort you put in. It's complete. So thank you.
And the same to you.
Yeah.
I have a question. When can I take Helen or Aurélien for a trip through Humboldt County?
As soon as the lockdown is down.
That sounds good to me.
The door is open. You have family in Humboldt County now.
Come enjoy the redwoods.
Let me hear.
We will come.
I hope so.
Et moi j'ai encore une question. C'est comment va le bébé?
Oh, so I made this film that I thought was going to be about wine and weed, and instead it turns out to be a film about parenting and being a family in times of uncertainty. And then in this process, also, I became a parent myself, and I just had a baby 2 months ago in pandemic times, in these times of uncertainty. So the baby is wonderful. We are hunkered down, and our lives are much less changed than anyone else I know. But it is, I don't know, the four of you taught me so much about what it is to be a family during times that are intense and uncertain. And I don't know. I take those teachings with me in my own journey. So I'm very grateful for that. And the baby is great. I may run down and try and I'll try and get her for the end of the call, and then you can see her.
I got a question. Are there conclusions about yourself that you've made after having watched the film?
Alors, d'abord, que je l'ai trop bien réussi, ce petit, qui est vraiment très beau, même à l'image. Et ce que j'ai dit, c'est que, ouais, qu'en fait, on sait qu'on dégage du stress pendant les vendanges et tout, mais on ne pensait pas que ça se voyait autant. Voilà.
Don't worry, it's a peaceful environment. Everything is looked after. Yeah, it's right. Now, please come in.
The tractor never breaks down.
Never. Easy peasy.
That was a fun part of the filming process. Is we had those same assumptions, and we got there, and we were just like, "Well, the tractor's broken again." Okay. There's this seems, and then like, I'm sorry, wait, were the stakes that if this one vat doesn't get done properly, all of the wine is ruined? Oh shit. Okay. Wow. It was, you guys built it up for us.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, maybe some weeds from Kevin would be helpful for some of them.
To relax you, yeah.
And a lot of cages. I just add it. We paint.
So fun.
How about you, Kona? Did you learn anything about yourself watching this film, Kev?
Yeah, I breathe with my mouth.
You know, when you live in the world we live in, you're somewhat isolated in your views, and it was beautiful to see another family that has worked together for time, and it let us see that we were on the right path, that the progression was good, and that as soon as cannabis becomes more normalized, you'll see a lot of people be able to have richer, better lives because of it. And it was beautiful to see their developed relationship in their world and how we're beginning to have one here.
Mais je suis d'accord, la transmission, c'est ce qu'il y a de plus beau.
Transmission is the most beautiful thing you can do.
Yeah. Guys, I think we're out of time. If you, Kev, Kona, Aurélien, Hélène, if you guys have any last thoughts to chime in, we'd love to hear it. And then we'll sign off and we'll say goodbye for now until we can plan a real reunion in Humboldt or Ardèche all together.
Il y a quelque chose pour Rebecca, de toute la famille. Il faut son adresse postale pour qu'on puisse envoyer parce que le cadeau est prêt et c'est le cadeau provençal pour la naissance d'un bébé. En fait, ce sont que des petits objets. Il y a du pain, il y a du sel, une allumette, un œuf et du miel. Et alors l'œuf, etc., c'est tout Papou qui l'a fait en bois. Enfin bon, voilà, il y a ça. Et en fait, chaque objet a une représentation et c'est un vœu qu'on fait pour la vie du bébé. Donc le pain, c'est pour qu'il soit bon comme du bon pain. L'œuf, que sa vie, elle soit pleine comme un œuf. L'allumette, que ce bébé soit droit comme une allumette, que sa vie soit droite comme une allumette. Le miel, qui soit doux comme le miel. Et le sel, pour que sa vie ait du goût comme le sel. Et ça, c'est les vœux qu'on offre en Provence quand un bébé vient au monde.
C'est beau.
Wow. C'est trop beau.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Yeah. I'm going to grab the baby. I'll be right back. Hold on one second.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Oh, you're friends.
Find something to film.
Yeah.
How's the camera?
We got a little mohawk because she's kind of
She's so cute.
Aw.
darling. Say hi to your friends. Say hi to your friends.
Oh, smiling.
You look like a kettlebell lifter if I've ever seen one.
Oh, okay. I think we're out of time. Guys, love to you all.
Yes.
Huge gratitude. I don't know, we should all sign off with a big wave.
Love you guys.
Hopefully we'll get
Bye-bye.
together at some point. It would be
Yes,
lovely.
Yes.
it would
Right.
be lovely.